When our bridegroom comes, it will be with a shout of the trumpet that Jesus is coming. In fact, the best man in a Jewish bridal custom sounds the trumpet. That's the trumpet call. And that's what we're going to look at, Lord willing, next week, is the trumpets for us. There are different trumpets. There's trumpets for Israel, and there's trumpets for the church. There's a trumpet of God, and there's a trumpet of angels. There's a first trumpet and a last trumpet. And we're going to look at those trumpets and distinguish why it is that the trumpets for us, and this is where a lot of people get really mixed up. The trumpets that are for us, it is for the church, and it is the trumpet of a bridal procession of the bridegroom coming. That's, trumpets is how they communicate. They didn't have email or cell phones or any of that. Trumpets for battle. There were different trumpet cadences and sounds and tunes that would say different things and communicate different things. Well, the groom snatches away and abducts his bride as a thief in the night. Just as we're going to be abducted, snatched away, caught up, harpazoed, raptured away as he abducts us. In the Jewish wedding, the groom takes his bride to the bridal chamber where they consummate and celebrate the Nisuin, their wedding for a Shavua, a period of 7 days. In other words, while we're consummating and celebrating our marriage to the Lamb, the world is tribulating for 7 years. This is why the rapture of the church of Jesus Christ has to happen before that period of 7 years, known as the Great Tribulation. Because anything else doesn't fit Jesus' teachings and warnings to us. In the Jewish wedding, the party waits outside until the groom tells the best man that it's consummated, and then the guests rejoice for another period of 7 days. During the 7-day or /year celebration, the world goes through the 7-year tribulation. Then they have a big wedding feast, huge wedding feast, and it's after the wedding celebration. And we too will go to the Father's house for what is called the marriage supper of the Lamb. Lastly, there were 3 groups present at the wedding: the groom and the bride and the invited guests. There are also 3 groups of people in the marriage of the Lamb: the groom, Jesus, the bride, the church, and the guests, those saved after the rapture. Now, some of you might have this question: is it possible to get saved after the rapture? Yes. It's not going to be easy. If you're not going to, as one said, live for Christ before, what makes you think you're willing to die for him after? It's going to be extremely difficult and require martyrdom to give your life to Jesus Christ and not accept the mark of the Antichrist in the 7-year tribulation. But you have to make a distinction. They're wedding guests. They're not seated as the bride with the groom on the throne. They're serving as servants at the throne. The book of Revelation makes that distinction. They're tribulation saints. They are not the bride. Make that distinction. Those who are born again of the Spirit of God are the bride of Christ. Those that go up in the rapture as the bridegroom abducts his bride. But those that get saved after the rapture are not the bride. They're still saved, but they're not the bride. Instead of being with the Lord on the throne, they're serving the Lord at the throne. And please make that distinction, and I hope that might answer an unanswered question. Well, today we're going to partake of communion as we do on the first Sunday of each month. And I want to read you one thing about the communion and what it meant in the context of the bridal customs in Jewish thought. See, to anyone who hears the message of the Basar, the gospel, it is a wedding proposal by God to accept him and be a part of his bride. God desires that we accept his invitation and give him our response of, I do. In fact, in Revelation 22:20, it's a proposal by Yeshua himself to accept him and be a part of his bride. His message in this verse is, come. The way the bride said, I do, was to take the cup and break bread. The way I say, I do, to the Messiah's marriage proposal, is to partake of his cup and broken bread. Have you ever known communion to be an acceptance of a wedding proposal, a marriage proposal from our bridegroom as his bride? That's what it is. When he proposes, will you marry me? The way she would answer would be to partake of the bread and the cup. and break bread together. What a wedding proposal, huh? I proposed to my wife in a helicopter. And she didn't really know that I was going to ask her to marry me, and I didn't know that she was afraid of heights. And when I asked her to marry me, we had these helmets on with the microphone, and I said, "Will you marry me?" You know, and all I could hear on the other end of the microphone was, I thought, "Oh, isn't that sweet?" Only to learn later that she was crying because she wanted to get out of the helicopter, but I would have said anything to accept the proposal. But this is Jesus proposing a marriage to us as the bride. And so when we partake of communion today, in so doing, what we are saying is, I do. I do. I accept. So as we partake today, I just pray that it would be, for those of you who are already born again of the Spirit of God, that it would be your way of saying, I do. His proposal of marriage for all eternity. And if you're not today, sure that you're born again of the Spirit of God and you have oil in your lamp, this is a great time to do it. The Lord is extending to you the cup, the bread, and to partake of it. See, even in my culture, when you would partake of bread and a cup, we all ate from the same bread. I mean, we double dipped in everything. And we would drink from the same cup. I'll never forget as a kid seeing my Arab family breaking bread and eating with their hands. And it was 6 1/2 dozen the other, because my germs or your germs were one. And that's the point. The two become one. And that's what the communion is all about, the two becoming one. When we say, I do, and accept the wedding proposal. So with that, I'm going to have Letu and Shelley come up, and we'll close in worship and partake together. And typically what we do is, have you come up and get the cup and get the bread, and then go back to your seat, and don't partake yet so we can partake together. So let's close with a word of prayer and just ask God to bless our time together at His table. Lord, we are blessed. We are really privileged. It's really amazing that we're the bride and that you propose your marriage to us this way. What a profound truth that we've seen from your word today. I pray that it has an encouraging effect on us, to encourage us in the days in which we live, as hard as it is the days in which we live. I know many people are going through some really difficult trials, and I just pray that today is a way in which you can just get our eyes off of our circumstances, off of our lives here on this earth, and that you would be the lifter of our head, as the psalmist says, and that you would point us heavenward, that in our hearts we might long for your appearing. That we might say, even so, not enough. Lord, come quickly. Come and take us. Take us to your bridal chamber, that we might be with you forever. Our love, the lover of our soul, our bridegroom. We love you, Jesus. We love you so much.